Ahoy there, friends and listener friends and friendly listeners. It is time again for another interview here on KBen Talks in Your Ears. This time around, I had a nice long chat with my friend Mordelle, who is a fan fiction author and an original fiction author. And we had a lengthy conversation. This is the longest one I've done yet. About fandom and fan fiction and what that crossover is like into original fiction, and and the shift between different types of performance work into the author space. It's a pretty cool conversation. We just kind of were able to chat and relax. We haven't had a chance to talk in a while, so you kind of get to catch up with us as we catch up with each other. Also, today is Monday, November 1st. If you're listening to this upon release, please make sure you have voted in the 2020 election. Especially if you're on your way to the polls right now, take this with you. It'll keep you company in line. And we can't afford not to do it. We just can't. That's it. That's the real deal truth. I don't know what I'm trying to say. But thank you for listening. We will put all of the links to all of the business in the show notes to this. I don't want to take too much time here since it's already a longer episode. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks. I don't know. I never know how to close this part out. I keep saying thank you to nobody in particular, but you can accept it for yourself. You can say that I'm expressing gratitude to you because that's what's happening here. Here's your interview. Have a great one. Vote. Well, hi, first of all. I haven't seen you in 100 years.
I know, it's been forever. I don't even want to know how long.
It's been a little while.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I'm glad you jumped on the opportunity to do this, because this has been a fun series for me to just, one, I'm catching up with people I haven't talked to in a while, but also just to talk about what we've been working on, what we're doing, and what's been happening. So you and I met making a movie once upon a time, like 5 years ago. But since then, you have been doing other things. So number one, I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about what that stuff is, and then we can get into like how pandemic is affecting any of that, or if there's benefits or drawbacks or whatever. So
Yeah. Yes, we met in LA. I've moved to Vegas. We moved just before everything started going crazy with COVID. So it's been like almost a year.
mm-hmm.
And I was acting for the camera and doing the voiceover acting online.
Mm-hmm.
And I said goodbye to acting for the camera. Tim got hired as an associate producer for the countdown show for UFC, Ultimate Fighting Championship. So that's been interesting. So we were lucky, honestly, when everything happened. I was like, oh man, I hope you're going to keep your job because you just got hired,
Yeah.
Yeah, they kept them on, and they even had their employees working from home for a long time. So now they have like selective people going into the office with masks and all that. So he's still working overtime. And I've just been continuing with the voiceover business, which at first went like it was going really well when March, when everything started shutting down and stuff, because people were asking me to redo all of their voicemail greetings, like to include all the COVID information. And also some like research places had reached out to me to do, little like if you have been tested for COVID and you're positive and you want to be part of this research, research like for medication, I guess, or vaccine, or who knows. But yeah, so it started off well, and then it just took a dip. So now it's all right.
I wonder if that's also related to people having to understand how to use their own like technology. Do you feel like that might be part of it? Is they figured it out how to do it themselves, or?
Oh yeah. Actually, a lot of people who contact me on Fiverr, which is where I do my voiceovers, they barely know how Fiverr works. So, you know, um, Yeah, I know. I was just talking about this with somebody else. I was like, I don't understand why companies are still flying people out to like conferences and stuff when you can do everything online. Like all these old people not moving with the times,
Yeah, and
getting everybody sick.
the virtual stuff, like, it's more accessible. It's easier, I think, to manage your time because you're not physically trying to be. If there's a conference and there's like 6 sessions you want to go to and 3 of them are overlapping, like if it's digital, you can maybe catch it. I don't. Yeah, it just seems like a weird delay
Yeah,
in just
yeah.
being productive. I don't know.
And there is the problem that, if you are working from home anyway, not just like a conference space or office space, but
Hmm.
you've got the kids at
Yeah.
home, and I've got Luna who's 4, so she wasn't going to go to school to begin with, but I was trying to get her into like this preschool when we first moved out here so that I can have time for me and to write. But yeah, that didn't happen. So I'm juggling that, which is fun. And Tim
It,
works like 12 hours a day.
oh,
So
geez. Yeah. So you're doing this is what I've run into. Well, not me personally. I have cats. I don't have kids, but they do come yell at me once in a while. But in one of my previous episodes, with an author of picture books for children, like she writes at home too. Her kids are older, but like it's that work life balance of you now when you're at home doing this and the kids aren't going anywhere. It's like, okay, well, what used to be taking group A to school and dropping them off, and then you have
mhm,
6 to 8 hours to handle your business. That doesn't exist right now,
right.
in the
Mhm.
way it used to, at least. So,
Yeah. I know someone who's still pretending to go to work so that her kids don't interrupt her while she's at home.
I mean,
I
I
was like, damn,
guess
you got a big house.
right.
Like,
Bye. I
what?
thought you meant maybe they were like driving to a parking lot and sitting in the car.
Yeah, she like leaves, she's like, all right, bye.
Answer some
So I
emails
thought that
on a
was funny.
Wi-Fi signal and then come back around and oh my gosh.
Know how she does it. But
No.
yeah. But
S
since then, I guess I had some more time to write, and we figured out a schedule that
mhm.
kind of fits. But 4-year-olds have their own time.
Yeah.
They're on their own time.
Their own time, their own world, their own language, their own everything.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh boy. My
yeah.
my
A lot
niece
of
is 4, so I've
oh yeah,
been
that's
around.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, because
right.
they were born in the same
Yeah, that's right.
time.
I remember. What's her name?
Avi.
Avi.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's a little she's one of those 4-year-olds. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, but you have been able to find the time to write, and obviously because you have been doing it, I've seen the
Yeah.
results of it.
Um, yeah, like I actually started writing in LA,
Hmm.
and I kind of like I sort of went into a black hole. Something I think hormonal happened. I don't know, and I went into like this deep, deep depression. So I started going to therapy and taking meds and all that stuff. But in the meantime, while I was like not feeling like doing anything, I was just sitting down reading fan fiction and writing fan fiction. So, and I started drawing again. So I started rediscovering things that I used to enjoy,
Hmm.
which was a blessing in disguise. It's just nice. And I haven't stopped. And that was like almost 2 years ago now.
Wow.
So yeah, yeah. And I finally wrote something. Well, I would still call it fan fiction, but it's technically an original novel. Yeah, I just posted it on Amazon, published it on Amazon on the 26th, and I just released the book trailer today, actually.
Awesome.
I'll
Nice.
have to post that.
Yeah, that's very cool. And it's also it's November 1st, so it's National Novel Writing Month today. It begins. There's
Yes.
a million authors trying to frantically write their 2,600 words a day or whatever the pacing is to get that
Mm,
done.
yeah.
I think I've attempted to do that for I, I don't know. I'm not doing it this year, but uh I've always tried it. I can never do it. I can never meet because I don't write at that rate. But
Hmm.
there's people that they'll write their 50,000 words in 24 to 48 hours, and I was like, what are you doing though? Like, I mean, it's an
Yeah.
exercise, whatever you want it to be, but I'm just like, what does it look like? I don't
I'll tell you what it looks like, because
know.
I wrote like the equivalent of like 5 novels in like a year,
Mm,
like a year's time. And that was obviously not doing much of anything else but writing. In fact, I got like permanent like tendonitis issues now. I like my whole right side had like seized up and refused to move. I started having to learn how to write with my left hand or draw with my left hand. And that is writing at home, writing in the car, on your phone, writing at the gym, writing at any possible moment you can just, open an application and start writing.
Yeah. Yeah, that
And
is the difference between like prose and like screenwriting. Because screenwriting, you kind of have to follow a specific set of rules or format, but prose, you can kind of punch it out on any device or napkin.
I actually still use the same format.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think Save the Cat.
Yeah.
I like Snarter. Yeah. So basically they do the same for novels. There's actually one dedicated to novels. I got it, but it's basically the same information. So if people still have Save the Cat for screenwriting, it's exactly the same.
Do you find that because I know you've written some screenplays as well, and do you like, I don't know if you wrote prose fiction before you were doing that, or like, do you find that the stuff you learned for screenwriting, I mean, you literally just said this, that you are applying it, but like process wise, or the way that you're formulating story, because screenwriting is so specific and like it's kind of so bare bones of like the bare minimum, not the, I don't want to say the minimum, but like you really have to learn how to refine those elements. And is that, as you've been moving forward in these other spaces, is that stuff you still apply to this? Are you finding new ways? I don't know.
Well, like with screenwriting, I had taught myself, and with the Hollywood Standard and Save the Cat and all that stuff. I did end up taking like a pilot class at one point, but it wasn't really format specific. It was just kind of like breaking down what an episodic, series looks like, what the writing room is like and stuff. But formatting wise, it's very different. I didn't think I could write a novel. Like for years and years, I would always say I don't have the patience to write that much. Like I'd rather stick to screenplays, which is like 100 pages. We're good, and it's like really spaced out. But and the switch going from, screenwriting, like, it's more like a first person to like third person, although this one isn't first person, but whatever. Anyway, it is different. Like it's very different, and honestly, the inspiration is stronger now because I'm writing the stuff I want to write. Whereas I had written one screenplay of my own, like my story, and then I got hired a few times to write for somebody else. So that was a little constricting, and what you find funny, somebody else doesn't find funny. Well, it goes over their heads, and you're like, oh, okay.
And I can imagine too. I think when if you're ever coming from, I think, a performance perspective of like, if you've been on the other side of it as an actor, like I think it's easier to kind of see what maybe the rhythm of something is like, or the delivery on something, and someone reading it on the page is like, what this isn't.
Yes,
what is this?
Absolutely. Yes. That's definitely a huge difference, because a lot of the writing rides on the actor and how it's performed, and you're only allowed so many descriptions, and you don't want to tell the actor what to do. You're not the director, but in the novel, you can tell anybody what to do. It's transitioning to writing like this has been like a lifesaver, honestly. It was a very big change, and it was kind of like during the change, I was taking that pilot class, and I was like, man, am I giving up on my dream, or do I just not want this anymore? So it was a lot of conflicting emotions about it. I've been acting for like over 10 years and trying to make it and all that stuff, not that I had, grand expectations for myself when I moved out to LA or anything, but man, it is hard to live out there. Just to live. I mean, Las Vegas is so much more affordable and livable. It's like what we pay for like a 2-bedroom apartment with all the amenities and central AC and beautiful complex. We were living in Van Nuys for a 1 bedroom, no
Yeah.
appliances, no nothing, you know. So yeah, it takes it was a big jump, but at that point I was ready to like set acting aside and go. I mean, it's just it depends on like what you're smiling about when you're talking about it, you know.
Yeah.
It got
Yeah.
to the point where whenever I was talking about acting, I was like, oh
Yeah.
God. Every time my agent calls me, oh God, like my stomach, I'm gonna throw up, I crap myself. So yeah, I mean, I just got rid of all that anxiety and and I'm more of an introvert anyway, so it works out. Um and it's funny now because now that I don't have to show my face, I'm like, I don't want my face anywhere. Like,
Mm.
I don't want put my face on my book, which I got away with. I didn't put my face on my book. I put like my little beetle logo, But yeah, it was an interesting transition. I'm glad I made it though. Like I thought I was gonna be like depressed about it. Like, oh, I never made it. I didn't accomplish my goal. But no, don't feel that way at all. I feel relieved, if anything.
I think what's interesting is like, unless you're talking to people who are like really hustling in the industry, people who are like industry people, it doesn't matter. Cause when you tell people, oh yeah, did some movies or I did this, or, and they go, oh wow. Like, cause even for me, like I do like really tiny micro budget
Right.
projects. You know this, you've
Anything
already
I've
one.
seen?
Yeah. And you're like, maybe, did you go to YouTube one time? But like, it's like, but when you're talking to people outside of it, though, there is the positive side is that they're impressed that you were in something. It's like, oh yeah, I
Yeah.
did this. And it's because it's like, if I say, oh, I've made 3 features and a bunch of shorts, and they're like, oh, well, that's great. And I'm like, I guess it is like, but it's easy to get down on yourself about the
Oh yeah.
work that you feel like you should have been doing, when it's like, well, you did put in a bunch of work to
Oh
make
yeah.
something and do something and be in things and perform. But it's so comparative because it's like, well, this person over here is doing this, and this person over here is doing this, and this person has done this, and this person was in all of these, and I did like this little thing over here. And it is refreshing sometimes when I'm talking to someone who's just outside of it, who goes, oh, well, that's really cool. And I'm like, you know
Yeah.
what? It is really cool. I am proud of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I had whenever I would go back to Miami to, Christmas and all that family stuff, there were a few people every once in a while who would actually just come up to me who have never really had a long conversation with me before, even though we're family, it was just one of those really big families, 40 people at the party. And yeah, they'd come up to me and be like, we're really proud of you. Like, we follow you on Instagram or on Facebook, and we're so, happy you went out there and put yourself out there. And I was like, thank you, even though I'm a starving artist.
for some reason it's a thing that I don't want to say for some, I understand why it is, because it is a thing that
Yeah,
a
some
lot of
people
people, I
never
think,
try.
yeah,
Yeah.
and maybe they dream about it or they want to do it, or
Yeah.
that's, and then I mean, that's why my philosophy is like, try it if it makes
Yeah.
sense, if it's not going to financially set you back drastically or mean you abandon your family or something, like, please go
Yeah.
try it and give it a go, because you don't know until you do it, and then you might find that you
Right.
hate it, or you might find that you love it, or you might find yourself somewhere in between, and then
Mhm.
see how long you can deal with it and then move forward or let go of it or whatever. But uh eh, I kind of had an experience um with the pandemic space, which is like, I found a little bit of fire under what I wanted to do again about halfway through. This has come up before on
Mhm.
this podcast series, but like 3 months in, there's a 3 month marker. Like, it was like June that I was like, okay, I do need to get back behind the camera, pick it up, shoot something. Um, because I mean, Probable Robot was the last film that I made. Um,
Oh, okay.
and that's 5 years ago.
That's right. You were
And
doing theater, directing theater
yeah, I
mostly,
did a
right?
little theater. And I was supposed to do my web series right before the 2016 election, and then I was like, no, I just got all the energy sucked
Yeah.
out of me. So I've
Mhm.
spent like the last 4 years, because we're now up to another election, but kind of just like figuring out what the heck I wanted to do and what that looked like and where did I want to put my energy. So being kind of at home with everything and having all this time, and then realizing I wasn't using that time to create much. At least that was,
Yeah.
I I've been working on stuff a little bit. We'll get into that because it's related to what you've been doing. But you know, it was like there's this thing that I love to do. I love to make films. I love to, and I want to learn how to do them in better ways than I was doing them before. So that's where I've been brushing up on my camera work and my cinematography and all those things. But so it was just like a little bit of a shift of attention and focus and being like, if I'm going to be stuck at home for another however long this is going to be, I need to be producing something for myself. And that's part of what this podcast is too. Is I was like, I want to connect with people because connection is the thing we're missing right now.
Yeah.
Nobody's connecting, and we're in this kind of beautiful digital space where we can, and people are willing. Because I feel like, you know, a year ago, if I had said let's Zoom together, people would have been like, I don't. What do you mean? What is that?
Yeah. What is
What's happening?
Text me.
Yeah, yeah. It's like I can't do that way. So yeah. But one of the things that has been a constant for me over time is the idea of fan fiction. It is something that has always been a nice default to go into, whatever it is, whatever the reasoning is behind doing it, whatever the purpose is. It's such a great space to, I mean, as a writer, it's a great place. You can literally be doing like writing exercises or whatever
Yeah.
you want to call it, or whatever it is, or take prompts, do something.
Yep.
And you already have an audience that's going to give you feedback on that.
Yep.
And because if you're trying to write original work and you're trying to put it out on a blog and you're trying to do something, trying to pull people into reading your original work, it's the same thing as, do you want to read my original screenplay? People go, I don't know that I want to do that. But fan fiction is a different realm, and I think over the last, I want to say the last 5 to 10 years, the stigma about it has kind of faded. Because it used to be this kind of thing that's like, you do what? I don't think I ever really talked about it with people outside of that space.
Well, when you have, A-listers talking about how they read fan fiction, and even though that's mortifying to think about, and how they encourage, even share fan fiction like on their Twitter and stuff like that. That happened with Good Omens, and I think after that, with the whole thing with Michael Sheen and Neil Gaiman, like just being completely open about it, it's okay, like, and you can interpret it however you want, and and we do read some of the stuff, and uh I mean, Michael Sheen's more like a fangirl on of his own character. So yeah, I think it's way more accepted now. And even those, who have best-selling novels, like they started off with fan fiction and people found out, and that now they're like, yeah, yeah, I did.
I've heard it come up even with when they're like people who are on writing staffs, or like people who are hired on to shows, not that they're writing fan fiction for the shows that they're eventually hired on, but the fact of that being something that's no longer like this taboo secret of like,
Right.
well, I used to write, Star Trek The Next Generation fan fiction, when I was 17 to 24. Like it's not an issue. It's not the same thing that it used to be. And I mean 50 Shades of Grey is the primary example of someone taking a work and doing a find and replace and changing it out and putting it out into the world and making $1 billion. And
Yeah.
and all of us went, wait a minute, you can do that? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, like I was gonna say, I keep forgetting to mention that I have to blame you for all of this writing that I've been doing, because you're the one who got me into fan fiction, because I didn't even know that shit existed. I was like 26 and you're talking about fan fiction. I'm like, wait, what is that? And you explained it, and I was like, no way, I have that stuff in my head. Like, I didn't know people actually wrote that out.
Well, yeah, and that came about because the movie we were doing was primarily funded by people who I knew from fandom circles, and I said I wanted to make this movie. And in writing the fan fiction to their tastes, I earned their trust to say, do you trust me to do an original project that is similar to whatever? And they said yes. And so so it was seeing how you could go from A to B and be able to, like, for me, so I could then create my own stuff with the support of the people that I had been writing for X amount of years. And and it created a nice symbiotic relationship that was really cool. And I I don't think that I could have done that 5 years before that point in time, because it wouldn't have been the same
No, I don't
world.
think so either. But yeah, I mean, the people you meet in those fandom circles, it's just crazy. Like you don't know the person, and then when you kind of start to get to know each other, then you're like, oh my God, you're like from this Fortune 500 company or something. Like I got cool friends. But I've made some really great friends. And we've never, like, most of us have never really met in person, but we talk every day and support each other, and it's great. It's been great. I've had like a really great experience with fan fiction, except there was, a little hiccup, with the Beetlejuice fandom community, but oh well, you move on.
Yeah, that's I think the ebb and flow nature of all of it is there's always going to be some of that. But yeah, I think there are people I met from like Buffy fandom, 24, 25 years ago, that I still talk to, that we're still linked up on, Facebook or whatever. And people who have been like, not just like casual, I mean, it's a casual friendship, but like people who, like, we know about each other's lives and we've
Yeah.
seen each other, I mean, go through so much. I have friends who have launched these huge events that are tied to fandoms that they used to just be a part of, and to see that growth is so exciting.
Yeah.
And to see it foster like original work and original projects, and to like in your case, like, here it gave you kind of everything you needed to push forward on something that you
Yeah, it
had in your
really
head.
did. It really did. I don't think, like, monetary wise, like I did not spend as much as I think people usually spend. Like somebody from the fandom offered to edit for free, like line edit for free, and they did the whole book. They read through it like a gazillion times and edited, every chapter, every time, which it's still being edited, so there might be a second edition. But but yeah, there was that. And then, there's another friend of mine who works for Facebook who was like, hey, I've got some like ad credits, let's push your book out there when you get the trailer. And I'm like, yes, thank you. Yeah, it's interesting, like how many people we meet. And it's not like, I don't know, I don't feel like they're doing it because they're a fan, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know, there's just this camaraderie and kindred spirit to a lot of these, like, online relationships, like in the fandom community. And um I put myself out there for them too, if they need a voiceover for a book trailer, I'd be happy to do it, that sort of thing. It's just, I don't know, like family.
It is it's a really cool, I think, I think in some ways unexpected uh relationship building that doesn't seem like it would grow out of something like that, but then
Yeah.
you get to know people, and it is like, I mean, it's like an intimate exchange of like, I'm writing these words, you're going to take them in, you're going to let me know what you think about them, and like in a way that you don't have with a published author, in a different, like, I'm going to read a Stephen King book, he and I aren't going to have a conversation in the
Right.
comment section of
Right.
of the book that, like, you
Yeah.
know I mean, so it is a different, it creates this really cool uh
Yeah.
dialogue that is interesting. And then I the hard no, it's not hard, but I guess a downside of it is that you do sometimes run into people who want to kind of push a little harder, of like, well, what about, what do you want to do this, would you write this, or like, people can get kind of demanding. I said it in
Yeah.
a really nice way, but like, there are times where
Yeah.
it's like, I just ran into something recently on I was chatting with some friends in a particular fandom. There's been someone going through the comment sections of a certain leg of something, and like, just they're basically asking for people to write something specific for them. And like,
Hmm.
it's like, well, no one wants to write that for you, because of the way that you're asking. Like, if you got to know
Yeah.
human and you commented, and like, you developed a relationship, or at least a conversation, but they'll just pop in, and that's but those people have been around since the beginning of time. So,
Oh yes. I
but
mean, I've learned a lot since my foray into this. Back when I first started my Tumblr account for the fan fiction stuff, I was like, "Oh, this is awesome!" And then the big purge happened, and then people went crazy. I don't know, I don't know what happened, but there was a lot of like, I would get like anonymous hate mail,
Mm.
uh, antis type of people, people disgusted by the Beetlejuice like relationship, the Beetle Babe relationship, that sort of thing. So
It's
that was
like,
interesting.
yeah, and that's the, I mean, listen, the internet exists and there's stuff on it, and you can choose to click on it or
Yeah,
not click on it, and that's your option. So it's kind
exactly.
of how that goes. But yeah, that's a that exists, I think, in just about every leg of fandom. Is there's always going to be that um that kind of response. But it's
It's everything, I think life is pretty balanced. You're gonna have, a bunch of people who like what you do, and then you're gonna have a bunch of people who hate what you do, and there's nothing you can do about it.
yeah, and anytime you're working in any artistic field, and
Oh yeah.
particularly like narrative work, it's the same. It's going to be, you could be a showrunner of a very popular show and you're going to get the
Mhm,
pushback, and you could be writing your fan fiction and get the pushback, and like
mhm.
it happens. And I think something I've noticed, uh or I guess something that I am concerned about is, I don't know how to phrase this. I have noticed that we go through these like cycles of people. Sometimes I feel like the closeness of like the author reader relationship is sometimes the the detriment of it is that it becomes so kind of symbiotic that sometimes authors feel so beholden to the readership that
Yeah.
then it becomes like, is the readership then uh shaping the narrative versus the author shaping the narrative? And I think that finding that distinction between the story you want to tell,
And the
whatever that
story people
is.
wanna read, right.
Yeah. And then you can find, and for the most part, if you write a good story and you're tapped into the general vibe of what people want, they're going to be happy with. There's still going to be the outliers who are like, well, this should have happened, and it's like, well, here's a pen and a paper, or
Here's another fic. What are you
here's
talking I'm
here's
sure
a
it's out there.
here's an AO3 code. You can go in and make your own account on the
Yeah,
the old website
yeah,
and do it yourself. But yeah, so there's I guess that's a negative of it, but the positive, I think, outweighs it tremendously.
yeah. Well, I kinda learned that by, diving into the, human AUs, of, the Ineffable Husbands, and, I did one, and it's the most popular one, and that's the market, people wanna read the, contemporary romance type of
Hmm.
thing, and so, starting off with this fantasy novel is probably not the best plan, but it's the one I want to put out there first, It's the one that I made the most mistakes on, and I'd rather, put that one out there first and get better than, just not do anything with it. And while it was in the fan fiction circles, it didn't really get that many reads or views or anything because probably because it's such an old and huge fandom, Beauty and the Beast.
Hmm.
So I had it up for a little while, and it was only because a few people started messaging me saying, "Are you ever going to finish this?" And I was like, "Okay, I'll get on that." Because I did want to finish it, and it was good. It was good to have that. Like
Hmm.
every once in a while, you get someone who's like, I really like this story, and I'm not trying to push you, but finish this, please."
I am a champion of works in progress, that I don't do so much anymore, but I have definitely pushed some stuff out there that, and then especially if you're like working for, if you're writing for a current like TV show, or a current like a piece of media that is front and center, and then you kind of move past that point, and then it's harder to get back to it, and it's like, and that's if you're like publishing chapter by chapter because you're kind of in the
Right.
moment. Whereas I've learned a little bit, not to do that as much. I still do works in progress, but I handle it a little bit differently. But I know those messages well that are like, and I'll get stuff that's from like years and years ago that I've just left it up because I don't want to put
Yeah. Oh
people
God,
like
I'm
it.
so embarrassed by one. And people like every once in a while would be like, I love this Jiraiya fic. And I'm like, ugh. Worst, like that's when I first tried starting like to write in that, novelesque. Like, what? Like, there are no descriptions in that story. Like no descriptions, just dialogue. So yeah,
Yeah,
like, are you
looking.
gonna write more? I'm like, I'm over that phase already. Sorry. Not going back.
I found a link to a Buffy fic from, I think the date on it was 2004. And I went back and I like, because I was telling somebody about something I'd written, and so I was googling to see if it still existed because I didn't have access to it anymore. And I found it was posted, and actually it was posted on back when you had to do like fanfiction.net has existed for since the late 90s. um archive of our archive of our
Oh,
own came around in 2008, I think. So in the time between those two spaces and then kind of pre ffnet, people would have to like host a website, and then you'd send them like your story, and then they would just they posted like it was a whole thing, like you had to like
yeah.
go through, and so it was like a GeoCities website or some ridiculous something like that, like the most like early 2000s like plain looking thing. But I looked at it and I was scrolling through it and I was like, I probably thought this was a really long story. It was probably 2000 words.
Mhm.
And I was like, man, I probably really was so proud of myself for like the length of this and like how
Yeah.
much I got done. And I'm like, the stuff I've been doing more recently is like, well, I'm tag teaming, I'm co-writing, so it's a lot faster to
Well,
do,
oh, that's
easier to
nice.
do a lot of stuff. But it's, now the chapters are like 20,000. I mean, we're writing like a huge story. So, but I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this is like back when I thought this was a lot. And I was still a fresher writer at the time too. But
Mhm.
it is interesting, the perspective of how looking back on the old work. And I was a little nervous. I was like, how bad is this going to be? Because this is 15 or more years ago. And I was like, yeah, the writing was okay.
Mhm.
But I was like, I thought this was like the longest, it's probably the longest fic I'd written up to that point. But yeah.
Yeah, I think my first that Jiraiya one, which I don't consider my first fic because I finished it after I had finished the Beetlejuice one. But that is the first one, and you can tell. And I think I had ended it around 40,000 words, and I'm like, that's a novel, and I'm like, no, no, it's not.
Nope.
I can't do this. But yeah, 100,000 words later.
Mm-hmm. And he's still going.
And still going. Yes, yes. Oh yeah. If you look at oh my God. I just out of curiosity, I didn't know that there was like that analytics part to like AO3.
Mm-hmm.
So I started messing around in there and I was like, I'm sorry, 500,000 words like all together? When did I do that? Like, and why aren't I not trying to make money?
Yeah, why am I giving this away for free? The project I have been writing during this stay-at-home time, we it's a series, and I think combined we're up over, I think by the time it's done it'll be 1,000,000 words, like by the
Ooh,
time it's finished. um but and I'm like, that's insane, that's wild. But
yeah.
and it was like, because parts 3 and 4 are being concurrently written because it's kind of two separate parts of, uh it's just two separate sections of the same story. um but part 1 was like, I think 80,000 words, and I was like, that's a nice size. And part 2 was like 200,000 words, and then part 3 is currently at like 300 something thousand words, and then 4 is still new, so it's at like 80 or something. But I was like, oh, like it is possible. And I think the freeing thing about writing in that space is that if you're not writing for publication, like for printed publication for sale, who
Yeah, you don't even
cares?
have to please, you don't have to please anybody who
Yeah, and I think the freedom allows for some, sure you can get like tropey and a little bit cliche, and it's fine, and will eat it
people
up.
want that.
Yeah. But I think also
I
there's a
want
little
that.
there's a little freedom in that, because then I think I get a little more creative with my phrasing and wording, because then I'm also trying to make sure I'm not repeating like the same. I'm not repeating myself, that I'm being fresh in what I'm doing. And so I think it, as an exercise, it opens things up a
Yeah.
little
I mean,
more.
you can have the same tropes in a bunch of stories. It's just how
Mhm.
you flesh them out that really counts, in my opinion,
Yeah,
anyway.
I agree. I agree. And that's having been writing for as long as I have in the fandom space through, I don't know, at least a dozen different fandoms, and seeing the same markers on everything. I was like, oh, that one, and then that one, and then and
Yeah.
this, and that's, and then finding
There are tags for a reason.
exactly. And those are the ones that if you are not happy with what they look like, don't go there. Don't click it. Don't.
Oh my goodness. I did not know the whole tag situation when I first got into this. I was bumping into stories where I was like, "Oh, I didn't know that was a thing." I'm way more open-minded than I used to be. Let's just
You're like, people are, yeah,
I'm
it's
like, "Oh, what is this alpha omega stuff?"
no. Like, oh, now I know, and I thank
Now
you.
I know why the tags are there.
Filter. Okay, yeah, it is, and I think that's what's interesting about the fandom space, is that in a way the world is kind of catching up to that, because now all of the young people who kind of grew up in this space are now grown adults, and I think the idea of minding your own damn business is hopefully growing out of, culturally out of this, I would hope, a little bit, and understanding that, and also understanding how to clarify, like, okay, so this is talking about this, this, and this, take it or leave it if you want it, if you don't. And I think those are interesting social dialogue points that I think have grown out of fandom, I hope.
I hope, but honestly, with the brand new fans, an example, the Beetlejuice fandom got a bunch of brand new fans because of the musical that came
Mm-hmm.
out. So, you got a lot of the theater kids still in high school and still not really open to things. It's just fiction, it's not real. We're not trying to say this is okay.
Yeah.
But, I try to put myself back in their shoes, like, when I was their age, I was such a prude, ultra religious, and, I would've been outraged at a lot of the stuff I read now? But, um, I never would've outright attacked anybody, online or anything like that. I'm too shy for that. It's in my head, I'd be like, "Oh, you're disgusting." No, but, yeah, if I were to visit my past self or my past self visit me now, they'd be like, who
What is
are you?
happening?
You're possessed by the devil." Uh, so yeah, it's just an experience, lack of experience, and you just once you hit your 30s, man. I never thought about that very much until I hit 30. I'm like, I've
Mhm.
heard this before. Once you hit 30, you're like, oh, I don't care.
Mhm.
I don't care about any of that.
I've heard that, and then I heard once you hit your 40s, you care less, and that is also true. It's like, yeah, do I care? And the interesting thing about having been in fandom for, Jesus Lord, like 25, however long it's been that I've been in it, is now I am 42, and I am still plugged into this world. And then it's like, okay, I'm gonna find a little pocket of this where it's not weird that I'm hanging out over here, because I don't want to be interacting with 14-year-olds
Right.
more than I
Yeah.
need to in life in general. Um, but there are these, there's,
Yeah.
if you're on like a Discord chat or even in the comments or whatever, it's seeing these younger, like even like early 20 somethings talking about stuff, and I'm like, oh god, you are so concerned, and I understand, because this is the whole world, and like I get it, but also like it'll chill out. Like, I say that right now the world is on fire. I understand
Oh
everything
yeah.
is like insane, but you know, uh, I want to say it'll be okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think people need to understand that it's not their job to police other
right.
people. It's just not, it's not your job. Like you have no, like nobody really cares, first of all, that you're policing. And if they do, it's probably just on the surface. They're just acknowledging how they feel, you know, oh, it's cringy, you know, I don't like it either. You know, like you know, the whole Beetlejuice thing, going back to that, because that's just still kind of going on.
Mm-hmm.
I had to separate myself from that community for a while because there was this one person, and I was very shocked to know that they were 22, and they had put me on this block list with a description of, for those of you who don't want to interact with pedophiles. I was like, holy crap. I was like, excuse me? Oh man. I was, oh my God.
Wow.
I had to, I mean, I was so hurt, but also so pissed. And I wrote essay after essay about I'm like, first of all, you're not even using the word right, and you don't know what you're talking about. So I would like do your research before you start, you know, what do you call it? Slandering people like online. Like
Yeah.
that's it's not right. It's not
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, that is that, and that is a problem that has existed. FFnet went through one of the reasons I left that platform altogether is because there was a group of self-appointed
Mm.
police, I guess, that would just they took the rules of the website that were like I think that they were developed specifically like because they didn't want to have to like filter out a bunch of like I'm not talking about the writing quality or the topic, but like garbage
Hmm.
on like because it was like you can't post anything that's in like a chat format because he didn't want people's like role play chats being posted on the thing
Right.
like cluttering up the thing. It's like save that for yourselves, like that's your private thing. But like there were rules that were like these are acceptable, these are not. And so it would be like if someone had a chat exchange within a story that was part of the narrative, they were like marking it as like a violation, and then
Yeah.
people's things were getting removed. And um so there was just this wave of stuff. So people's like beloved fan fictions were getting like marked like pulled down or uh deleted or whatever.
Mhm.
So like that group used to exist. They might still exist, I don't know, but I think about I want to say 5 years ago I you can't delete an account on there, so I just like deleted everything on it and then changed the name of it. And and then I've been on AO3 ever since. But
Yeah, I don't update fanfiction.net much. I kind of gave up after the last one. I was like, you know, it's I don't feel like there's a big readership there like there once was.
the
Also,
new the new spot is Wattpad, which I
right.
feel 100 years old because I open it and I'm like, I don't understand this. What is this?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I haven't. It's too flashy for me. I can't concentrate because there's like ads and then there's a thing and then there's like a as you're reading there's little notes on this like people's notes on the sides and then there's like stuff flashing it
Yeah,
at
you
me.
can like
And
comment anywhere on the page. Yeah.
yeah, which I think as an author that's a cool idea. Like I would like to see where people are commenting. As a reader, I don't need to see that because it's too much. Like my ADHD is like I'm already having the fact I sat down to read is already an accomplishment, and I don't need the to know there's more stuff to click on because then I'm going to get lost in that spiral.
I know that like for a writer, I think Wattpad is an excellent place to test out like your material
Hmm.
because they have so many stats. Like it's like you can basically just like per chapter know how many people, you know, starred that chapter or how many commented and, you know, where, and you know, on Archive of Our Own you don't really get that information. Like you get very limited information on
Yeah,
that.
and that's it because FFnet does have a better stats feature as well, and I do
Yeah.
miss that because I think it would show you like per chapter and what the views are, and versus yeah, AO3 is just like per it's per click per story. And I don't the way I write, I don't really care. Like I do care that people are reading. Like I'm like, yes, thank you, you were here. But like I'm not super. involved in needing to know a lot about the stats.
Right.
But I do understand that some people, especially if you're testing something out and you're trying to shape it into something else, and you want to know what the best, where you're getting the best kind of feedback and reactions, it is really helpful. But yeah,
Yeah. I actually have to like honestly have to like reel myself back into the, you know, space, the thinking space, that I'm not doing this to like, you know, be a famous author or anything like that. I am doing this because I love doing it, you know. And I don't like, just the other day I was like, you know what, I'm just going to reach out to someone to promote my stuff for me, because I've never had to deal with PR before, and with acting that was a nightmare, you know, having to like put yourself out there and just be your own manager and all that. I'm like, I don't want to do the same thing again. I don't want to like
yeah,
go through that. That was my least favorite part about acting and what took the joy out of it, and I don't want that to happen with this, you know, because I really do like being in my la la land, you know, 4 hours a day. And I don't want to feel like, is this something that people are going to like? Is this something that people are going to buy? And how many people have, you know, so I really don't want to try and get too much into that, you know. I do want my book to get out there, but I'm not going to break the bank or my soul trying to trying to push it.
yeah. That and do you? So, have you seen a strong, like, what do you, with your original piece, like with your original book? Are you noticing that fandom people are moving toward it, or what's the? Can you tell?
Yeah, you know, there's always the fans that kind of jump fandoms for you, you
Mhm.
know, and those are the ones that have bought the book so far, you know, like out of that community that I know of, you know, that reach out, you know, send me a picture of them with the book, or a little like shipped out, you know, which is nice. You know, people who have read the story before and were following it when I was posting it per chapter, you know, that sort of thing. Or but yeah, it's most of them are like people who jump the fandoms. Like, I mean, going from Beetlejuice to Good Omens is a big jump. Like, that is not the same, not the
Mhm.
same kind of people. Very rare to have those two mishmashed together. But you know, they, you know, some people do, they're like, I don't know anything about Beetlejuice, but I've read your stuff because, you know, I really liked this one and I like your style. And you know, those are the ones that are going to know that they're going to like the original stuff coming out. So or at least, you know, they'll trust it a little more than just somebody they don't know, you know, somebody they don't know like how they write, you know.
Mhm.
So yeah. I have like my own Discord server with just like the closest people I've met in like fandoms,
Mhm.
and they're super supportive, you know. We try to support each other in lots of ways, like post resources for like artists and writers and stuff. And um, those are also the ones that, you know, all have bought the book. And I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna cry. Like, so many people love me. So it's nice. It's been really nice. I mean, also the instant feedback of fan fiction is super great. Like,
Mhm.
I love it. I kind of started getting a little overwhelmed with comments with that human AU one. Like, once I started getting more than 20 comments a day, I was like, I don't know what to do. I need to reply to everybody. I must reply to everyone. But yeah,
Yeah.
I had to stop.
The desire to reply, and because I find, because on this project I've been doing this year, uh through the first, well, also because the way we paced ourselves is that, like, parts 1 and 2, or parts 1 and 2, we were writing, and then, like, I think we would be 3 or 4 chapters deep before I would post, like, chapter 1. um or maybe it was even, well, however it laid out, like, so those
Yeah.
first pieces came out, like, it would be like every other day I would post a new chapter.
Mhm.
So it had a lot of momentum, and so we get a
Yeah.
lot of comments. And so then I was like, well, and I was like, oh, it's fine, I'll start replying. And then I'm like, well, what else do I say? Because I have,
I know, it's all the same. Like, thank you for reading and
yeah,
commenting.
happy face, happy face, happy face.
Yeah.
Um, and that And especially because I would get these great uh these great readers who would like write the I have one friend who she calls it her essay. She'll write an
Yeah.
essay on each
Oh
chapter,
yeah.
right? This
I love
all the
those.
parts she loved. And then we're also we also chat otherwise. So then she'll kind of, as she's reading, she'll be like kind of live blogging the read. And I'm like, so I get like double, and it's very exciting. But yeah, so it's like when you're commenting, it's like, well, what else do I say? Unless there's a question in the comment to
Yeah.
reply to it, it's always like, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't want it to sound like I'm not saying thank you, because I am. I'm so happy that someone spent
Oh
the time
yeah.
to read.
Yeah.
But it is
It
that,
does make me feel sometimes that like I wonder how many people go through the comments and see how many times I've said basically the same thing over and
yeah.
over again, and it's not, maybe they don't feel special about a reply, but let me tell you, like now, especially now, if I'm replying to you with how life is right now,
It's
feels
insane. Yeah,
uh,
right.
yeah, like every time I see a comment, every time I get like I see that that special Gmail has numbers on it, I'm like, oh, cool. It brightens my day, it warms my heart, and I've had some that have made me cry. Like I'm like, oh my god. The scary ones are the therapists who come and comment on my stuff.
I mean, you
I'm
can.
like, ah.
This is the, oh, does it show? I was trying to like showcase my, you can't see it. It's just it's the channel. It's the filter where all the AO3 comments go. And that's just
Yeah.
exclusively what it
Oh,
is. It's the nice, I'm like, I want it, like you don't know what it looks like. Um,
I would love to see it though. Let me know what.
it's just all the, it's just a bunch of AO3 kudos and comments, but it is nice. It's like, that's like it's like my old email address that I first tied to that account, but like, so it filters over to its own thing. So I know I can go there, I can check it. And I'm so happy to see the bolded, brand new
Yeah.
email, and just see that people are enjoying the thing. And I know for me, like a huge motivator for writing what I was writing was because for me, like when I started doing this, I was 20, 21. I was freshly out as a gay person. I was watching shows that didn't really have, well, Buffy eventually gave me someone to be like, hey, look, there's one of us.
Yeah.
But so it was like me finding a space where, oh, I could write a version of this that's what I would like to see, or I could write
Yeah.
this
Yes.
thing, this I see, you see the subtext in a thing, and you think, well, maybe this was how that scene could have gone, or whatever. It was a lot of that early on. Um and I really think what's really, really wonderful is that more recently, I think the last couple of years, uh certain shows have surprised me that I'm watching something. Actually, one of a show this year did this to me, that I was watching it and I was like, oh, that'd be cute if those two got together. And then that was like the crux of the whole, and I was like, oh my
Yeah.
god. And I'm like, am I awake? Is this happening? Like, is this real? Like, to like
Yes.
have something that I would have been driven to like take that and then write a version of it that is what I would like to, the representation I wanted. And now
Right.
that's happening. And I think that is also happening in part because culturally we've hopefully shaped a bunch of writers and creators to tap into that. And that is exciting and happy.
It is. It really is. And honestly, I mean, people who know me, especially family, who are gonna read. Oh my God! Every time I think about that, who are gonna read Seerless and the Sailor, they're probably gonna see similarities between me and the main character, and it's because that's what I want to read. I want to read the gender fluid, non-binary, like unlady like characters who can kick your ass,
Mm-hmm.
but who can also like get all super giddy and soft and in love,
Mm-hmm.
because that's a real person,
Yeah.
it's a real person. I want to read real people.
Yeah. And that's something that has been, I think, missing. I was Scout laughs at me because I was reading a book recently, and this is me. I am a gender fluid, non-binary, super gay, whatever. Like, this is, that's how I identify. But I was reading a book and it literally described someone as a fluid, and it was like a science fiction book. So I was picturing like an amoeba type like creature, and then it took me like reading a few paragraphs. I was like, oh shit, no, they're talking about someone like me. Like, but it was so foreign to me that I was like, interesting. Like, what's happening? So it's exciting to see these things creeping into, I think, the mainstream narrative, and
Yeah.
I'm excited that you are contributing to that with what you want to see, and that's and that's all I think in part due to fan fiction being in existence and giving us all the space
Yeah.
to create.
Well, I've always been one of those hopeless romantics, like I if I do some if I watch some feel good trash, I don't tell anybody, but but there are days where I'll go and I'll start surfing through Netflix and start putting all those like, romance, stuff on there. And I had started reading romance novels when I was like 11 because my mom would leave them on her nightstand, and she knew I was into vampires and all the creepy stuff that she doesn't like. And she was like, "Here, you might like this one." I started reading it and I was like, "Oh, like there's a lot of sexy stuff in here." Like took it to school, did all the like immature giggling about it, but it really shaped my storytelling because I mean, for me, especially now, for some reason, like before I could pick up any novel and be, happy, most of the time anyway. Like, and I was really big into classics when I was younger. Now I just read fan fiction because because those are the elements that I enjoy. Like and it's nice to see that there are other people like you who enjoy the same things,
Mhm.
that you're not the odd one out, that there
Yeah.
are thousands of people liking this story because of, the tropes,
Mhm.
and yeah, like I don't know. I mean, I I've discovered a lot about myself as I get older. I think, we all do. And so like the whole, I don't know, like I'm from the era that people called somebody like me a tomboy, you
Mhm.
know? And I don't know, I was just it was like something I was proud of at the time, but also something that kind of set me apart, from a lot of people that I wanted to be friends with, or, just I don't know, we just didn't click because I wasn't like them. But now, in the fandom communities, there's just all kinds of people, and they're all great. Like so far, anyway, I've had just it's nice. It's really nice to be able to like meet people like more like you and have the same interests and stuff. So it's been quite a lovely adventure, like in that regard.
Yeah, that it is, and that is those are the stories the success stories we love to hear about, the good connections and all
Yes.
that. Okay, so the question I was supposed to ask at the beginning and didn't ask now. Um, do you feel like maybe this does or doesn't really affect things, but we kind of talked about this earlier because Luna is 4 and
Mhm.
you're at home and trying to find time and space anyway. Do you feel like this last 8 or 9 months has been harder than usual to work on this stuff? Is it the same?
Yeah, well, I went through a lot of changes in a very short amount of time. So not
Hmm.
only did COVID happen, but I was used to having Tim, my partner,
Hmm.
around 24/7 basically because we both worked from home on Fiverr, and occasionally he'd go out to, be a cinematographer and DP something, uh, but he'd always come home and I had all that support. Now he's gone most of the day and his hours are weird. He starts at 10, comes back at sometimes, I don't know, the other night he came back at 3 in the morning. So that has that was a big change. And then COVID on top of that, meaning I can't take Luna anywhere. uh that was a big change as well. So yeah, it did hit kind of hard, but I was on top of it. I got in touch with a therapist as soon as possible and I got graduated. I'm doing okay.
All right.
My anxiety is it's normal. It's at a normal level now. Nah, we all have our days, and I just have to acknowledge that. But Yeah, that lack of support and all those changes at once, like moving, from one state to another. And I had already like been so tired of moving because we had moved once a year since we got together, and we've been together like 7 years. It'll be 7 years. So yeah, it was tough. The whole mom part of it, especially, like, it's tough because there are those people who say they would not be great parents, and they're actually the good ones,
Mhm.
and then they're the ones who are like, oh, I'm gonna be an amazing mom, and then you're kind of like, oh, you're a little cray cray. I was one of the ones that I was like, no, no kids. So Luna was a surprise. So that and not that, and I never got into like the whole, like, I didn't get like postpartum depression or anything like that. It happened like after I ended breastfeeding. She turned a year old. I went downhill. Like,
Mm.
it was pretty bad. So that transition was still going on while we were moving, and the COVID stuff started happening. So it was tough. It really is. And it still is, but I think I'm in a better place now. uh it helps to be in a place that you enjoy. It helps to um go online and connect with friends, and you just got to remind yourself to go out and get some sun and hydrate and do all the stuff to take care of yourself, because especially now, any lapse in that is just going to send you into a deep depression because of the state of the world just by itself,
Yeah.
not just your life. You've got other things to worry about. And health is such an important thing. And oh my gosh, like, yeah, it's been a ride. It's been a ride, but I still think we're one of the lucky ones. Like, Tim still has his job. I'm still working, not as much as before, but I'm still working. And I do find the time. I find the time. Put Luna to the bed and try to stay up a little later than usual, finish what I gotta do. And I, learned the tools I needed to learn to center myself when I feel overwhelmed or irritated, anxious, and all that stuff. So, it's a good thing that weed is legal here recreationally as well.
I
That helps.
relate deeply to that as well. I don't know how, that's something that actually I discovered. I didn't discover it like for my anxiety, but because I knew it. I was very familiar with it before, but
Yeah.
in with especially like right now, but just with my general anxiety and my um with the ADHD and then with my autism spectrum, like all of those things, learning how finding kind of the right, like, and like I like microdosing. So I like, you can
Mhm.
just like the tiniest touch of something sometimes will pull that, because I feel like when everything is compounded on itself and it's like you're like, I one more bird chirping out my window, it's over. Like I can't
Yeah,
handle it. Or the
yeah.
guy with the leaf blower who every Tuesday or Wednesday is out. Like, listen, our apartment complex has a beautifully maintained like landscaping, but there's a day where I'm like, just please stop blowing that damn thing out my window. But I mean, just like all that stuff compounds, and I'm like, just enough to bring it to a manageable level
Oh,
is
yeah.
like, it's a miracle. I mean, listen, legal weed is a miracle.
Yes, yes. I recently discovered that my whole life, basically, I've had PMDD symptoms.
Mm,
And I thought it was just regular. That's what all women go through, like PMS. But no, it's like PMS times 100.
mhm,
Uh, I still got to check some other stuff out, but the PMDD is, the anxiety also like messes with like noise sensitivity,
mhm.
and now that I'm not on any hormones, like any birth control or anything like that, I'm trying to see if my body like regulates, and I feel like it is, but every month, it's like 2 weeks out of the month, I'm like up and down, or just really down or really up. Uh, there'll be days where I'm like, I have the energy but I am so anxious about getting something done that I don't get anything done,
Mhm.
you know? And I'm just like walking around the apartment like, what do I do? I need to do something with my hands. You know? And that was really tough too when I had the injury. Like I
Mm.
couldn't use my hands, and that was a nightmare. That was just a nightmare. Like I need to be doing something with my hands. Drawing, writing, or playing with the therapy, or, you know, something. So yes, I mean, I don't know, like I feel like yeah, therapy really did, I think, most of the work. Like being cognizant of
Mhm.
those moments where something is about to make you snap, or no noise is starting to look like strobe lights,
Mhm.
or like shatter, someone's breaking glass in your ear, or something. Um, but it's with, I mean, for me, therapy gave me the tools to pinpoint those moments before they get out of hand.
Mhm.
And there's a very helpful chart that my therapist had given me, because I thought I was just an angry person. You know, I'm just angry all the time, you know? But with this chart, I was like, oh no, there's plenty of little feelings you can feel in between, you know, feeling good and feeling angry. You
Yeah.
know, there's annoyed, there's anxious, there's scared, you know, and all those little things. And finding out in that moment, pinpointing what you're really feeling. It's not that you're angry at the guy outside with the with the leaf blower. You know? It's that you're overwhelmed,
Mhm.
and that's an okay feeling, and that's acceptable. And well, you do what you got to do to make yourself feel a little better.
Mhm.
You know, and that's a process too, trying to figure that out.
Yeah, and it's also harder right now in this time period too, because it used to be, well, if they're going to do maintenance, I'll go out, I'll
Yeah.
go do something, and I can still go out and drive through a Starbucks and go get something, but it's just like it's the whole idea of like we feel trapped because there really is nowhere to go or do anything. So I think that compounds on it. So then it's like, well, now I'm trapped here. The damn leaf blower is outside and I can't go anywhere. And it's
Yeah.
like, but yeah, it is pinpointing like what it literally is my sensitivity to sound is now maxed out, and I need to either
Shut.
like go put on headphones and with different sound, but like with different, because it's not the sound specifically, it's the type of sound. I've always had an issue with what I would classify as like non rhythmic repetitive sounds, so like stuff that is like constant but like it's not
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
it's not rhythmic, or like it's not musical, it's not a musicality to it, it's just like a noise. And
Yeah, that'll drive me nuts.
yeah, I mean they're the kinds of things that probably drive everyone a little bit nuts, but like it
Mm,
like gets me. And
yeah.
if someone's like hammering something outside, it's
Yeah,
like
you feel your neck like
yeah,
tense and grow.
just thinking about it I'm like, stop hammering, no one's hammering.
Like I already see the little vein popping out. Yeah, yeah, I
So
totally get it. I
yeah.
I have made a lot of purchases to try and make life better a little bit inside. So noise canceling headphones, I got some
Okay.
other, or sometimes I walk around with earplugs, you
Mm.
know, that let in conversation but tune everything else out. No, I got myself a massage chair just so I can just, you know, sit and relax and feel like I'm getting a massage, you know.
Because no one can touch each other, so we'll just get the chair to do it. I
Right,
mean, I relate
right.
to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's finding the balance, and it's finding out what works, and it's, I have like, I apparently have misophonia, which I know this now my whole life,
What is
because
that?
that's the sound of people eating, or mouth sounds,
Oh, oh my
and it
God. I have that too then, because it drives me up the
it
fuck.
makes me irrationally angry. My dad used to sit and eat pancakes, which shouldn't
Oh,
make any noise, right? But like it was the sound of his mouth, and it would make me angry, and
yes.
I
The
didn't
the noise that
understand.
really, really like that in that scenario, the
Mhm.
noise that I just cannot stand is the that. I'm like, stop,
And like,
stop. I
so
can't hear that.
yeah, and it's like the kind of thing that some people are paying like, or like spending good time like listening to ASMR videos that are exactly that, and I'm like, you are wild. I don't want that
I
in my
do
life.
ASMR. Like I get hired sometimes to do ASMR, and I'm like, oh, why did I put up this gig?
Oh, geez, yeah, it's like, but that's the thing is, so like Scout is a I don't think she's a particularly loud eater, but I hear everything she's eating. So like we have come to the agreement that like either one of us like will excuse us, like either I'll go to another room or she will, but like, or it's just like I'll turn on the TV so that there's something to drown out the sound of the food. Uh, but it's the kind of thing that just like I'll catch my, like she'll be eating chips or something and I'll be like zero and she stops and she's like, is it too loud? And I'm like, yes, I need to leave, or we need to put on something, or I don't know, an episode of Seinfeld or whatever it is to drown out the sound of. And what's hard is like we live in this world, like we haven't had cable in forever at all. I don't think we've had cable since we've been together. But like, because it used to be just turn on the TV, just turn the TV on and something will be on. But now it's
Right.
like, well, I'm turning on the TV, but I got to choose something to
Right.
turn on. And then I'm like, well, I don't know what it is I want to put on.
Like an hour trying to choose something.
She's waiting to eat her cereal. And I'm like clicking through, which by the way, Pluto TV is a free app that like has stuff playing all the time, which has been a lifesaver in that respect. That like,
I'll check that out.
they have like a whole channel that's just old Unsolved Mysteries episodes. Yeah, it's pretty cool. They have I'm not supported by Pluto TV, but I appreciate it. And it's like the kind of thing where they drop in ads every, like for the breaks, but it's a really nice if you just need something to put on
Right.
and not have it so that you don't have to hear someone eating next to you, then I highly recommend it.
Yeah, actually, I was never a big TV person, and I was never up to like, I don't know if I told you this, but back when I was a Buffy fan, I didn't know, I was in middle school, and I didn't know that TV was on a scheduled program. Like, I didn't know that Buffy was on every, what was it, Thursday or Wednesday, Thursday, I don't remember. But once I found out, I was like, oh, I don't have to just flip through the channels. I can just watch Buffy on this time or record it. I can put my VHS. So, I was pretty late in the game for TV, and I'm not a big sitcom person either. My mom is, so I was always into movies and reading, and it was more reading than movies. So it makes sense now that I'm writing more than I'm watching TV. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff people talk about, and I'm like, I have no idea what that is. If it's not some, Haunting of Bly Manor, then I don't know what it is.
That's the show I was talking about that like surprised me with a nice, beautiful. I was like, are we? Oh, we are. Oh, we are. Like I was very pleased and very moved by all of that, and I don't want to say more because I want people to go watch it if they haven't seen it.
Yeah,
but
I don't want to give any spoilers away, but yeah, full-blown panic attack. I had a full-blown panic attack. Tim had to take me out in the balcony, make me watch Will Ferrell be the devil on SNL. I had to smoke some weed. I had to take my meds. I was just inconsolable. I was messed up. I could not breathe. It was bad.
Yeah,
it was bad. I told him, I'm like, I don't know if I can watch the next season if it's gonna be like this. I can't take it. Oh man.
Yeah,
I think I'm way more emotional now about watching things ever since I had Luna as well. Like, I don't know, I just feel like a greater appreciation for human beings and the struggles. Before I was such a misanthrope. Now I'm just, I feel for you. I know you're not an asshole deep down. Deep down, you're just a scared little girl.
I love it. Well, where can people find anything that you're doing?
God, I gotta put everything on one place. I do have a website coming out soon, but it's not up yet. It will be mordelle.com, but it's not there yet, so don't look for it. No, right now, honestly, the only thing I have up is my fan fiction, which you can, if you guys want to check it out. They're all free. They're all novel length, most of them anyway. And that's on Archive of Our Own, and my username is Mordelle, Mordelle. And then there's Seerless and the Sailor, which is the Beauty and the Beast story for adults only. And that's on Amazon. And if you have Kindle Unlimited, you can read it for free. You can lend it out to somebody for 15 days, all that stuff.
Awesome. Well, I thank you for taking the time today to talk about all these things, fan fiction and writing and Bly Manor and all of it. And I hope that you. I don't know what I was gonna say. I was gonna say something real nice, but I couldn't think. It's
I'll
good
take
to
it.
it's good to
We're
talk
gonna
to
say
you.
something nice. I'm good with that.
Yeah, just accept it as a nice thing I'm saying. And happy writing as you continue on whatever the next thing is you're doing, and I hope you don't get any weird ASMR requests on Fiverr.
Oh, I get some weird ones all the time. I'm used to it already.
You're like, I'm a friend. It's done. It's easy. Not a problem.
I take screenshots. I wanted to do a whole video about it, but I don't want to. I don't want to embarrass anybody.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And this has been great. We
Thank
talked for
you.
much longer than I expected, but that's all. It's all good stuff.
Did we? I don't even know what time it is already.
It's fine. Don't worry. Time is an illusion. It's almost 4:20. So
Oh, wow.
take that to mean what you need to do.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it was really fun, and it was great finally catching up.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. How do I leave? Okay.
That's always the issue with me too. I'm like, wait, I'm gonna wait for the other person to hang up.